Obadiah 1 verse 18, commentary. What I did was, and I usually do, I was looking for a subject, and I thought about the Edomites, and I thought about Obadiah and other precepts, and the big controversy over who the Edomites are. We know exactly who the Edomites are, hands down. The so-called white man descended from the Edomites. An Edomite would look like a so-called white man, a pure Edomite, for lack of a better term. A pure Edomite would look like a so-called white man with red skin. And the reason why he would look red skin is because he has very little or lack of pigment, and the blood, the red blood which we all have, shows through the skin. So that's why they look red. They're not actually red, they're pale. You can even use the word white, and behold, Miriam became lepers white as snow, meaning the Most High took the pigment off of her. And you see it among Jakes, albino Jakes. They'll look like so-called white people. But so the descendants of the Edomites would look like a so-called white man with red hair and very pale skin that looks red. So you would look at them and say they're red. If you look in the audience, if you can see it, this guy right here, that would be an Edomite. Now you have Israelites that look like Edomites. You understand? You're going to have Israelites that look like Edomites. You're going to have Edomites that look like Israelites. Like this guy, Dr. whatever his name is, Pastor David Lynn. Somebody said in the comment section that his father was a white man. He admitted to it. I don't know if that's the case. But if his father is a white man and his father goes back, descends from Esau, then guess what? He's an Edomite. He's a tear. But I want you to listen to this. I got to bring this up again because it keeps coming up. Because you know who the two most controversial nations are right now? Is number one, who are the Israelites? So that's an argument now. The fact that we are on the highways and the byways, not just GMS, but the other camps that are out there. You know, all praises to them brothers that are hitting the streets hard. This particular group, the brother that's speaking, looked like an Ephraimite. He's actually from the tribe of Asher, and his name is Yarah, and he had communicated with me on the comment board. But he basically he was nice enough to let this guy Pastor David Lynn speak. And David Lynn is not a new guy on the block. We know about the guy. He used to come out in Toronto, Canada. He used to come out to the camp, the GMS camps up there in Toronto, but he never said anything. So he was gathering information, as a good Edomite should, or tear. But anyway, I want you to listen to this, and I want to read the commentary that even the scholars know that Esau is not done away with. So just listen to this first.
Well, you can see not it in the fruit. To the, when your life is transformed. 2 Corinthians 5. No. You don't use that as a part of all nations, yes or no? Of course, yes. So the prayer of salvation according to the word of God? Well, you can see it in the fruit. To the, when your life is transformed. 2 Corinthians 5.
Right, he's asking about, is Edom going to be judged? You know, is he going to be saved? You know, because the scriptures clearly says that there's future judgment for all Edomites. It tells you in Obadiah, which we're going to read, and which we know about heart, that every last one of them is going to be destroyed. So let's listen on.
Salvation is not for all nations then.
Yeah, because this guy's pushing that Christian dogma that salvation is for all nations. But how can it be for all nations when the Most High said he's going to utterly destroy every Edomite? So it's obvious that salvation is not for all nations.
Can I answer you? Can I answer you? Right? We're speaking at a time of salvation in Christ. In those verses, the verses that you're talking about.
Right, exactly. If that's the case, if the Messiah, as he's called him, Christ, came back and changed all that, but that the Christ, I hate even saying that word, but it just means Christos, which means anointed. The anointed. I'm saying then the word saying the word anointed in Latin or in the Greek, Greece and the Greeks, Greek. He's saying that the Messiah came for all nations, so Edomites can be saved. So the Messiah is coming against what the Lord said. So the Lord is not perfect. So that makes the Lord a liar. Somebody please read Romans the 3rd chapter. Let the Most High's word be true, and every man a liar. So is the Most High lying? Is the Most High double-minded? See, anytime you deal with these Christians, they're really they're really defending Edomites. They're not thinking about Arabs. They can care less about Arabs and East Indians and Africans. They're caping for I had to use that word for Edomites. What's in his mind is Edomites. He wants Edomites to be saved. He's not concerned about Ishmaelites, about Elamites, about Hamites, about any of those nations. Moabites, Ammon. He don't care about Moabites. He don't care about that.
Am I allowed to finish? Those verses that you're talking about as how Esau is going to be destroyed and so forth like that, you have to understand that nation.
So he's familiar with the verses that the prophecy that Esau will be destroyed
has been mixed in, and we can't find that nation today. Now we can look back in history.
There's no scripture on that. It doesn't say that we won't know where Edomites are. They just mingle among everybody, so they're really not here because they're mixed among everybody. There's no scripture to back that up.
And say that, okay, you know what, this is Esau and that is Esau. I would say you're Esau. You look like Esau. But listen to me. Listen to me.
This either he knows and he's trying to, I don't know. He's trying to save Esau in some kind of way by saying we don't know what he looks like. But then he tells the guy, the brother, Yarad, that he looks like an Edomite. Well, what does an Edomite look like? I thought they were all mingled. They look like everybody.
Listen to me. I listen to you. Hey man, if this is how you want to dialogue, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I'm answering you. I'm answering you. Now, their nation was destroyed. Their nation was destroyed. Now, their nation.
For him to say their nation was destroyed, he's saying that there's no such thing as Edomites. That you see the average so-called white person, we don't know who that white person is. They just nation out there. But the Messiah came for all nations anyway, so it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Chinese, Japanese, which is clearly not. That's that Christian BS. That's not scripture.
Was destroyed. Their nation was destroyed. I don't know the exact year right now.
The reason why he said he doesn't know the exact year is because he doesn't know. He just made it up. He just pulled it out of his out of his rectum. These Christians are weak. They don't understand that. Now they're beginning to understand the scriptures. Now they're beginning to do word searches. Now they're beginning to go into the blue letter, into the Greek, into the Hebrew. Now they're beginning to go in maps. Prior to the Israelites coming out strong like we do on the highways and the byways, the average Christian wasn't doing that.
Okay. No, right, I do know, but I just don't know the exact year right now. So I'm going to be humble. But here's what I don't know.
Okay, he asked him what year. I don't know the year. I don't remember the year. And then he asked him who did it. He said, I don't know, because he doesn't know the scriptures. Anyway, let me go here to the commentary. It says here, Cambridge Bible School for Colleges. Cambridge is out of England. It says the house of Jacob, the house of Joseph. Both are mentioned to show that the remnant of the whole nation, which is Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Gad, Issachar, and so forth. Joseph represents Joseph is interchangeable with the word Ephraim. It says that the remnant of the whole nation, not only of the 2 tribes, but of the 10. So you got the 2 tribes, you got the 10, that makes up what? 12 tribes. That's why that's mentioned in Revelation, the 7th chapter, is included. The same names are used to describe the entire nation in Psalms 77:15. It says, you have with your arm redeemed our people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. So this is a good scripture to put in your your mental Rolex, Rolodex, whatever the hell you call it. It says Psalm 77:15, backing up that the 2 kingdoms got to come back together, and that's when Esau is going to be destroyed. Now the 2 kingdoms that have never come back together at any time in history, they're coming back together now. It says, Psalm 77 verse 15, you have with your arm redeemed our people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. And you got a reference to Hebrews 16. Then you got Psalms 80 verse 1. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, you that led Joseph like a flock, you that dwell between the cherubim, shine forth. And that leads to the ship shining forth. He shined forth unto Paran. This is Psalms 81 verse 4 and 5. It says, for this was a statute for Israel and a law of the power of Jacob. Well, I just read the 4th verse. Then you have Hebrews 2, you have Hebrews 5 and 6. And then it goes on to say, any remaining a survivor, the punishment here denounced against Edom is quite distinct from that earlier punishment. Oh, wait a minute, there was 2 punishments. It says, of which the nations are summoned to be the instruments. Obadiah 1 verse 1 and 2. Now that's involving the other nations. It's a division of Obadiah. Thus saith Yahweh the Most High concerning Edom, the Edomites. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen, the other nations. Arise you, and let us rise up against her in battle. The her are the Edomites. And ultimately, all these major nations that possess missiles are going to shoot missiles on Edom, America, Babylon. It says it is that final destruction which they suffered at the hands of Jews only, first of Judas Maccabees, and we're going to read that, and then in their total extermination of John Hyrcanus, which is a lie, because John Hyrcanus did not destroy the Edomites. He made them convert to keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Read it yourself. All you got to do is take John Hyrcanus and put in the Edomites, and it would go to Google and would take you to the Josephus, and it would tell you how he made them convert to keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. That's why they're going around saying that to the Israelites, because a guy named John Hyrcanus told them, look, you're going to keep the Sabbath, you're going to keep this, you're going to keep that. So now if you go to let me come back over here, I'm sorry. It says here in the commentary, right? It says, to be the instruments, Obadiah 1, verse 1 and 2. It is that the final, I'm sorry. It says, any remaining, survivor, the punishment here denounced against Edom is quite distinct from the early punishment of which the nations are summoned to be the instruments. It is that final destruction which they suffered at the hands of Jews only, first of Judas Maccabees. So these Christians now, they first of all, they say they don't accept the Apocrypha as divinely inspired, but they'll use it to say, oh, the Edomites are done away with by the Maccabees. It wasn't done away with because guess what? You had Edomites scattered outside of Mount Seir, just like we were scattered. There's a reference of Hadad in I believe that First Kings, the 11th chapter, if I'm not mistaken, about Solomon, and how Hadad and Edomite fled because of David and Joab. And Joab was ordered to go down and kill every Edomite, and then to spare the women. And what did they do with the women? Why did they spare the women? Because they were popping the women. They were popping. The same thing that the Moors did, because the Moors were Israelites. When they went down into southern Italy and different parts of Spain, they separated the men from the women. They killed off the men, and they saved the women, and they took the woman, the finest women, and they popped them, and they had children with them. So Israel's literally all over the place. Israel looks like everybody on the planet Earth. So based on reading this commentary, they know that there's another slaughter coming for the Edomites. So this guy, Pastor David Lynn, doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So let me just read that. Like I said, I'm not going to make this long. This is First Maccabees 5. I'll start from 1. Now when the nations round about heard that the altar was built and the sanctuary renewed as before, it displeased them very much. Like it's displeasing them now. We're building the altar back up again. We are known as an altar in the altar is mentioned in Isaiah, the 19th chapter, which somebody should do a complete breakdown on Isaiah, the 19th chapter. I might do it. And also in Revelation, the 11th chapter, speaks about the altar, rise and measure the temple. And that's what we're doing. It says now, first verse, now when the nations round about heard that the altar was built and the sanctuary renewed as before, which is happening right now, the building, the coming together of the house of David, it displeased them very much. A second verse, wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob, which they're thinking now, they want to destroy us, that was among them, and thereupon they began to slay and destroy the people. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea. Remember, you had Edomites already scattered up in Mount Seir between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, and even other nations. Hadad fled down among the Egyptians, the Egyptian king or Pharaoh, and he married the Pharaoh's wife's sister and had children, at least one son. So you got Edomites mingled among them so-called Egyptians, the people of Mizraim. It said, then Judas, with Judas Iscariot, fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arbitane. Now when you look that up, basically it's going to give you a map of Esau. That was one of the places in Esau. It's one of the strongholds of Mount Seir, or the land of Edom, because they besieged Gail, and he gave them a great overthrow and abated their courage and took their spoils, robbed them. Judas Maccabees, led by his armies, they were killing Edomites and they were taking what they had. It said also he remembered the injury of the children of Bean, who had been a snare and an offense unto the people, in that they lay in wait for them in the ways. And that makes me think about Obadiah, going back to Obadiah 1, with the Babylonians, the strangers. He shut them up. Judas Maccabees shut the Edomites up in their own land. He went down there to get them. He shut them up, therefore, in the towers, and encamped against them and destroyed them utterly, and burned the towers of that place with fire. So he shut them up in there, and he set on fire, and they burnt alive, and all that were therein. I don't have to read any more because it goes into Ammon. So that was one destruction that had nothing to do with Obadiah 1 verse 18, because the only tribes that were there were Judah, the kingdom of Judah. Now you did have other tribes of the 10 tribes, but when Esau is utterly destroyed, when Obadiah 1 verse 18 fully comes to pass, that's when all the tribes are going to come together. All of them. They're going to come together as one. And that's going to be a period of time. We always say 1,000 years. We're going to gather them all together, and we're going to burn them up. We're going to get rid of them. And that's scripture. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. It's on to the next one. Shalom.